June 6, 1944, Omaha Beach, Normandy, France. The sea was a violent gray that morning, its waves streaked with blood and oil. The first landing craft of the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One, crashed through the surf as German artillery thundered from the bluffs above. Sand, smoke, and shrapnel filled the air. Pinned down at the waterline, Sergeant Richard Dick Winters of E Company, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, and countless others faced an impossible wall of machine gun fire. The weapon that cut down men by the dozen was the German MG42, the infamous Hitler's buzz saw, firing at 1,200 rounds per minute. But among the chaos, another sound began to rise, a slower, steadier rhythm. Not a shriek, but a heartbeat. The deliberate thump of a Browning M1919 4.30 caliber machine gun being set up by American infantrymen taking shelter behind the steel obstacles scattered along the beach. The M1919 was heavy, water-cooled in earlier versions, but now air-cooled, designed to sustain long bursts without overheating. The weapon's metallic rhythm, about 500 rounds per minute, echoed through the surf. Its sound was the measured reply of American firepower against the shrill fury of the MG42. According to after-action reports from the 116th Infantry Regiment, gun teams under relentless fire set up their Brownings at the base of the seawall. Each gun team consisted of 3 men, a gunner, assistant gunner, and ammunition bearer. Their task was brutally simple: suppress the German machine nest long enough for the riflemen to advance. .1 report from Company F, 16th Infantry Regiment, recorded. The M1919 team under Sergeant George L. Mabry laid down steady fire against Pillbox 62. Though under continuous mortar fire, their suppressing fire allowed the demolition teams to close within grenade range. This pattern repeated across the beach. As the M1919s opened up, the relentless bursts tore into the embrasures of German bunkers, chipping away at the defenses that had massacred the first waves. Private Donald R. Burgett, a paratrooper of the 101st Airborne, later recalled hearing the contrast between the German and American guns echoing through Normandy's hedgerows. The German guns rattled like a zipper, fast, mean, terrifying. But our Brownings, they talked slow and steady, like they had all the time in the world. By mid-afternoon, as troops pushed beyond the bluffs, M1919s were dragged inland. Mounted on tripods or jeeps, they became the backbone of mobile American firepower. Against entrenched positions and sniper nests, they proved devastating. Their adjustable rear sight and steady recoil made them precise even at 800 meters. Each gun consumed thousands of rounds daily. Ammunition bearers, often teenagers from the replacement depots, carried linked belts of .30-06 Springfield cartridges, the same caliber used in the M1 Garand and Springfield rifle. The belts were stored in metal boxes, quickly feeding the gun as the barrel glowed cherry red from sustained fire. American ordnance records note that over 43 million rounds of .30-06 ammunition were expended in the first 72 hours of the Normandy landings, much of it through Browning M1919s. By nightfall on June 6. The rhythmic crack of the Browning had become a familiar sound across the beaches of Omaha and Utah. It was not elegant like the MG42, nor as terrifying in tone, but it was relentless, reliable, and above all, American. The weapon designed by John Moses Browning in the final days of the First World War had once again proven its worth a generation later. As darkness fell over the coast, surviving machine gun teams reassembled their weapons, wiped them down with oil, and laid new belts across their laps. Tomorrow, they would carry the same guns through hedgerows, villages, and fields, each one a portable fortress of fire. The men of the Big Red One, the 4th Infantry, and the 101st Airborne were learning a lesson written in brass and blood. The MG42 might have the speed, but the M1919 had the soul of endurance. June 13, 1944, near Corentin, Normandy. The hedgerows of northern France were as old as the land itself. Thick, earthen embankments laced with roots and centuries-old brush. They turned every field into a fortress. For the American infantry, they were a nightmare. Every advance through a hedgerow meant climbing into the barrel of a German ambush. From these green walls, the sharp, rattling staccato of the MG42 ruled the battlefield. German Fallschirmjäger and Panzer Grenadiers dug in behind the hedges, their machine guns covering every lane and field. But soon, the Americans brought their answer. The M1919A4 Browning in a hedgerow near St. Lo, Corporal Harold Hal Keller of the 29th Infantry Division and his two-man team crawled through mud slicked with rain and cordite. They were carrying 31 pounds of gun and 18 pounds of tripod, plus belts of linked ammunition coiled around their shoulders. The Germans were only 200 yards ahead, dug in behind a sunken lane. A S rifleman fanned out. Keller's assistant gunner, Private Leon B. Hall, mounted the M1919 atop the tripod, low and stable. The team had learned to fire short, 5 to 8 round bursts, long enough to suppress, short enough to avoid overheating. Hall pulled the charging handle. The metallic clack was both a warning and a promise. Set. Range 300. Keller ordered, his voice muffled by the damp hedgerow. On target, fire. The Browning roared. Each burst punched through the tangle of leaves, cutting gaps into the greenery. German riflemen ducked. The MG42s answered back with a shrill burst that tore bark from the hedgerow inches above their heads. American tactics evolved quickly in that crucible of green. Infantry platoons began using M1919s in coordinated pairs, one laying down covering fire while the other relocated. The Browning's reliability under dirt, rain, and constant use made it invaluable. Unlike the MG42, which needed frequent barrel changes after sustained bursts, the M1919 could fire hundreds of rounds with minimal stoppage if cleaned and cooled properly. Technical reports from the Ordnance Department, ETO, European Theater of Operations, recorded that out of 10,000 minutes and 1919 seconds issued in Normandy, fewer than 3% experienced operational failures in combat during June-July 1944, a staggering testament to its durability. Even the German troops began to respect it. Prisoner interrogations compiled by the U.S. 12th Army Group revealed one captured Obergefreiter describing the Browning's distinctive rhythm as Die Amerikanische Sage. The American SAW early July, the M1919 was mounted everywhere, on half-tracks, jeeps, Sherman tanks, and even the sides of amphibious trucks bringing supplies inland. It became the American equivalent of the MG42's dominance, not through speed, but through ubiquity. During the Battle of St. Lo, July 7th to 19th, 1944, hundreds of Browning teams laid down suppressive fire for the advancing 2nd and 35th Infantry Divisions. The city, reduced to rubble by Allied bombing, was a labyrinth of collapsed walls and sniper nests. The M1919's steady cadence echoed off the ruins, a constant beat amid the chaos. In one documented instance from the 134th Infantry Regiment's after-action report, July 16th, Sergeant Paul O. Johnson's machine gun team held an intersection for over 6 hours under repeated counterattacks. His Browning fired nearly 12,000 rounds before the barrel was replaced. We could tell it was getting white hot, Johnson later recalled. But that gun never quit. You just kept feeding it like it wanted more. As the hedgerows fell one by one, American GIs began to nickname the weapon affectionately. Old Reliable, the Brass Eater, and even the Buzzsaw Killer. It was their steady reply to the MG42, a machine gun that might not win in speed, but could outlast, outfight, and outlive anything the Germans could field. By the time St. Lo was taken on July 19th, the Browning M1919 had earned its place as the backbone of the Allied advance. The men trusted it implicitly. When it fired, they moved. When it stopped, they knew something was wrong. And across Normandy's battered fields, that slow, rhythmic hammer became the pulse of the liberation itself. September 12, 1944, near Aachen, Germany. The air smelled of wet soil and burned cordite. After months of fighting through France, the U.S. Army had reached the western border of Germany. The Siegfried Line, a vast network of concrete bunkers, dragon's teeth, and interlocking machine gun positions stretching from the Netherlands to Switzerland. Here, for the first time, the Germans were defending their homeland, and they would not yield easily. In the ruins of a small village west of Aachen, the 2nd Battalion, 26th Infantry Regiment, part of the 1st Infantry Division, dug in against withering German counterattacks. Every street corner, every barn, every cellar was a gun position. Among the rubble and shattered church walls, the distinctive metallic cough of the M1919A4 Browning sounded again. The gun teams, often 2 or 3 per company, had become the backbone of infantry firepower. Their role was clear: pin the enemy down so riflemen could maneuver. Sergeant James P. McCafferty, whose unit fought near the Siegfried Line's pillboxes, later recalled in his oral history for the U.S. Army Center of Military History, "You could always tell where our Brownings were. They were the heartbeat of the company. Steady, rhythmic, never panicked. The MG42s screamed. Our Brownings just kept talking." By autumn, the M1919 had evolved beyond the role of a static gun. Many units converted the weapon into the M1919A6, a lighter variant fitted with a shoulder stock and bipod, allowing for greater mobility. It could now move with the rifle squads, laying suppressive fire during advances through towns or forests. In Aachen, the first German city captured by the Allies, the Browning was indispensable. Mounted on jeeps and half-tracks, it provided overlapping fields of fire in the narrow streets. During the Battle of Aachen, October 2nd to 21st, 1944, engineers and infantry coordinated with M1919 teams to neutralize fortified buildings one by one. The Company G. 18th Infantry Regiment log noted that during the assault on the Hotel Quellenhof, used as a German command post, a single Browning gun crew under Corporal Joseph R. Sarnowski provided covering fire across an open intersection for nearly 40 minutes while engineers breached the lower floors. The enemy could not lift their heads without being cut down, read the after-action report. The Browning's deliberate tempo made it ideal for suppressive fire, each burst placed rather than sprayed. Its .30-06 Springfield rounds, traveling at nearly 2,800 feet per second, tore through sandbags and plaster, forcing even hardened SS veterans to duck for cover. By late October, as the rain turned roads into rivers of mud, the weapon's reliability under brutal conditions became its greatest virtue. MG42 barrels often warped or seized in the cold. The Browning, with fewer moving parts and a slower cyclic rate, simply kept firing. Quartermaster records from 1st U.S. Army Ordnance Section reveal that over 85% of Browning barrels recovered from the Aachen front were still serviceable after the campaign, a statistic unmatched by any other automatic weapon in the theater. In the captured German bunkers, American troops sometimes found MG42s abandoned, jammed by mud or broken extractors. GIs would shake their heads, haul the captured guns out of the way, and re-establish their own firing positions. Always with a Browning. By November, the steady hammer of the M1919 had crossed the border of Germany. It would soon thunder through the Hürtgen forest, where cold rain and pine needles turned every clearing into a killing ground. There, amid fog and fear, the gun's slow heartbeat would once again guide American soldiers through the most grueling combat of the European War, and as veterans would later recall, it wasn't just a weapon. It was the sound of survival. December 17, 1944, Bastogne, Belgium. Snow fell in heavy, wet flakes that muffled the thunder of artillery. The dense forests of the Ardennes were blanketed in white, a deceptive calm masking the largest German counteroffensive of the Western Front. Operation Wacht am Rhein had begun, for the men of the 101st Airborne Division, cut off and surrounded in Bastogne, the cold was an enemy as lethal as the Wehrmacht. Ammunition was scarce, rations were frozen solid, and the temperature hovered near zero. Yet through the blizzards and the fog, one sound remained constant: the deep, deliberate rhythm of the Browning M1919A4. At dawn, German Panzer Grenadiers of the 26th Volksgrenadier Division advanced along the road from Neuville, supported by Panzer IVs. Their MG42s ripped through the still air with their high-pitched wail, echoing through the forest like a scream. But from the American foxholes dug into the snowdrifts, a slower, steadier reply began. Short bursts, measured, disciplined. The Brownings were speaking. In one frozen foxhole near Foy, Sergeant Denver Bull Randleman and his crew from Easy Company, 506th PR, manned a Browning that had already fired nearly 5,000 rounds over the previous 2 days. When the German armor appeared through the trees, the gun opened up again, cutting down infantry advancing behind the tanks. The heavy .30 caliber rounds snapped branches and sent up sprays of snow and bark. That gun never jammed, not once, recalled Private First Class William Garnery years later in his oral testimony. Even when the oil froze, we'd urinate on the receiver just to keep it from icing over, and she still fired. The gun's simplicity saved lives. The M1919's recoil-operated mechanism and open-bolt design allowed it to function even in sub-zero temperatures where other weapons seized up. Each gun crew carried spare barrels wrapped in blankets, but many didn't need them. The cold air itself acted as a coolant. Official records from the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment note that in the week between December 19th and 26th, Browning teams fired an average of 12,000 rounds per battalion per day, mostly during night engagements and counterattacks. The rhythmic hammering became the lullaby and alarm clock of Bastone's defenders. Point 1 after-action report from 2nd Battalion, 327th Glider Infantry Regiment, described the effect of the Browning on German morale. Enemy patrols ceased probing after dark when sustained bursts from M1919 guns swept the approaches. Prisoners stated they mistook the weapon for a heavier automatic due to its accuracy and persistence. The Browning's measured tempo was deceptive. What it lacked in rate of fire, it made up for in endurance. Where the MG42 demanded new barrels every 250 rounds, the M1919 could fire 3 times that before overheating. In Bastogne, where resupply was impossible, this reliability meant survival. Even when the skies finally cleared and the C-47s of the U.S. Army Air Forces dropped supplies into the encircled town on December 23rd, the Browning gun crews stayed at their posts, their weapons blackened with soot and ice. Many soldiers considered the M1919 as vital to their defense as food or ammunition. When General George S. Patton's Third Army broke through the German lines on December 26th, the men of Bastogne emerged from their foxholes exhausted but unbroken. Their Brownings, streaked with rust and snow, had withstood everything the Ardennes could throw at them. In his diary, Lieutenant Colonel John T. Kiley of the 101 Estes Ordnance Section wrote, "The machine guns are battered, filthy, and frozen, but they have never failed. The M1919 remains the best friend an infantryman could have." As the Bulge collapsed and the snow began to melt in January 1945, the American advance resumed. The Browning's rhythmic thump echoed eastward, through the Siegfried Line again, across the Rhine, and toward the heart of Germany. To the men who carried it through that bitter winter, it was no longer just a machine gun. It was the voice of their defiance, a sound the enemy learned to fear and the Allies came to trust. March 24, 1945, Wesel, Germany. The thunder of engines rolled across the flatlands of the Lower Rhine. Allied artillery had pounded the opposite bank through the night, and at first light, the largest airborne operation since Normandy began, Operation Varsity. British and American paratroopers of the 6th Airborne Division and the 17th U.S. Airborne Division descended through a storm of flak and tracers, landing amid burning fields and German resistance. Behind them, columns of infantry, tanks, and trucks rumbled across pontoon bridges thrown over the Rhine by U.S. Army engineers. Among the convoys came the unmistakable silhouettes of M3 half-tracks and Willis Jeeps, each bristling with mounted Browning M1919 machine guns. The weapon that had first opened fire on Omaha Beach now thundered on German soil. The 9th Armored Division crossed near Remagen, where an unexpected prize, the Ludendorff Bridge, had been captured intact weeks earlier on March 7th. It was a turning point. Thousands of men and vehicles poured across, while German artillery desperately shelled the span. As engineers worked under fire, Browning gunners lined the western bank, cutting down counterattacks attempting to retake the bridgehead. A combat report from the 27th Armored Infantry Battalion recorded one of the most remarkable instances of sustained fire in the campaign. Gunner Corporal Edward J. Thorne, Company B, manned his Browning for 4 continuous hours under direct shell fire, expending approximately 9,000 rounds. The gun remained operable throughout, cooling conducted by pouring canteen water on the barrel jacket. The M1919, by then mounted on nearly every vehicle in the Allied arsenal, had become the universal machine gun of the American advance. From the open hatches of Sherman tanks, on the turrets of M8 armored cars, and in the hands of infantry platoons moving house to house, it was everywhere, in the devastated towns of Western Germany, Duisburg, Basel, and Dusseldorf. Its deep, methodical rhythm echoed through the streets. German resistance, though fierce, was fragmented and desperate. Many Wehrmacht and Volkssturm units, hearing the slow, hammering bursts of the Browning, knew that American infantry were near, and that the end was approaching. By April, as the Allies closed the pincers on the Ruhr pocket, tens of thousands of German troops surrendered. A U.S. Signal Corps photographer captured an image near Paderborn showing a Browning team from the 2nd Armored Division perched on a knocked-out Panther tank, their guns still smoking from the last engagement. On the side of their ammo box, someone had scrawled in chalk, "Buzz Saw Killer." The nickname had spread through the ranks since Normandy, part pride, part dark humor. The feared MG42 had once been the sound of German dominance. Now, the slow, unstoppable rhythm of the M1919 had become the anthem of Allied victory. As the war entered its final weeks, the Browning continued its work, from the Elbe River crossings to the liberation of concentration camps. In April 1945, when elements of the 69th Infantry Division met Soviet troops at Torgau, a few Browning gunners still stood watch, belts of .30-06 draped over their shoulders, unsure whether the next shot would be in anger or relief. By May 8, 1945, V-Day, the guns finally fell silent. Many of the Browning teams that had landed in France 11 months earlier were still carrying the same weapons, battered, scorched, but functional. Some had fired tens of thousands of rounds without replacement. The Ordnance Department's final report for the European theater summarized it simply. The M1919 series performed beyond all expectations. Its serviceability, accuracy, and mechanical endurance contributed materially to the success of ground operations in all major engagements. John Moses Browning, the Utah-born inventor who had died nearly 2 decades earlier, had designed a weapon that would outlive him and, eventually, outlast the war itself. In the years to come, the M1919 would fight again, in Korea, Vietnam, and dozens of conflicts across the world. But in the mud of Normandy, the snow of Bastogne, and the rubble of Germany, it had already written its legend. The men who fired it never forgot the sound, the measured heartbeat of liberation, answering the chaos of war with unbreakable resolve.